Hi, I'm Keahi Pelayo. Welcome back to the podcast. Today I'm here with my associate, Lehua Kato.
Good morning.
She's a successful newer agent at our firm. And today we're doing the podcast a little bit in reverse. Normally I conduct these, but Lehua had the idea that she would interview me. And Lehua, it's your show. Why don't you introduce yourself and tell you how we came up with this format and how you came up with the questions, and let's get going.
Great. Thanks, Keahi. I'll take it away. So, hi again. I'm Lehua Kato. I'm a real estate agent here in Honolulu, and I wanted to flip the roles a little bit today. I'll be interviewing Keahi, and we're going to be talking about condos today.
Okay.
Condos 101.
Okay.
So
can I ask you a question before you get started?
Go ahead.
Have you given me a list of these questions?
No, I'm blindsiding him today.
Okay, so you're going to see me blindsided. Yeah.
Yeah, I offered to give him give him a heads up for these questions, and he said, nope. Shock me, blindside me. So
Here we go.
So, Keahi, can you talk about why someone should invest in Honolulu or Oahu real estate or condominiums over anywhere else in the world?
Okay, so since we're focusing on condominiums and we're talking about Honolulu in specific, and we're talking about all of the places in the world that you could invest.
Mm-hmm.
And I go to one of the guys I follow very closely, a demographer and a geopoliticist, and his name is Peter Zion. And he did a summary earlier this year of all of the major real estate markets in the United States.
Mm-hmm.
And he talked about New York City and Atlanta and Texas and Arizona, Silicon Valley, San Francisco, Los Angeles. And in minute 27 of his podcast, he talks specifically about Honolulu. And he said these words: real estate prices will never go down on Oahu, where our market is. Now they can fluctuate, and I think he's talking about going over the long haul, but he made the point that our zoning laws are so strict here, and that we are already built out on the land zoned for building,
Right.
that it's economics 101. Small supply, huge demand, there's pressure on prices. So if you're going to buy real estate somewhere, then I think Honolulu is a great place to do it. And if you ask anyone that lives here in Honolulu, do you wish you bought more real estate here 10 years ago? They're probably all going to say yes.
I wish I would have bought more 10 years ago.
That would have been a miracle back then. So,
Thanks. So, speaking of the high cost of Oahu real estate,
okay.
What are some creative ways that you've seen first-time home buyers get around the issue of a down payment?
First of all, let's just start with the idea that most home buyers, first-time home buyers, believe they need a much bigger down payment than they actually do need.
Same
All right?
here.
Well, some of them think we have to have 20% down. And in a perfect world, you have 20% down because you get better interest rates and you have lower costs associated with getting the loan. However, on a conventional loan, a buyer can get in with 3% down. On $500,000, that's $15,000. All right? A VA, a veteran, can buy with nothing down. And in some instances, they'll walk away with money in their pocket. Not a huge amount of money, but they'll walk away with money in their pocket. So number one, let's just get our expectations right regarding the down payment. Number two, believe it or not, all of us, or the majority of us, have family. And family is allowed to gift you money to help you buy. And the vast majority of people on Oahu, in Hawaii, in general, their first home, they don't buy on their own, right?
Interesting.
Because you need so much money down. Sometimes parents or relatives help qualify, help with gifting down payment funds, and all of that needs to be planned on the front end. The other thing you can do is in today's world, because the market is not as fast and furious as it was during the COVID market, we can negotiate in closing costs that will help minimize the amount of cash that the buyer needs to put down.
Interesting.
There are a lot of different creative ways to handle the down payment. There's the old-fashioned way, save it, but I don't recommend doing that, and that might be one of your questions because of market appreciation.
Mm-hmm.
Clearly, it's a good thing to save, but don't put off buying to save, all right? And my recommendation would be, if you're a first-time buyer thinking about how do we do this, first phone call is to your real estate agent and a meeting about how do we put this together. Here's the bottom line. If you're renting, you're buying a house for somebody. So let's take those rental dollars and put them to work for you. Because
Absolutely.
you have to live somewhere, right?
Hopefully.
Yeah, absolutely. Right?
Yeah, thank you. Great. So I'll move on. I wanted to bring up, oftentimes when I'm showing clients properties, there are details about properties we see that they want to change or upgrade. It can range from small work to bigger projects such as moving walls.
Okay.
And what can you share about renovations and when you would need a permit to complete certain types of work?
Okay. I'm going to address the first half, and I'm going to hide from the second half. Let's talk about renovations. First of all, the rule of thumb is you're better off buying someone else's renovations. The cost of construction today is so high that if someone's already remodeled a unit, you're not going to be able to do it as cheaply as buying the base unit and adding the construction. All right? So I would say first you want to find a unit that's remodeled because it's already done. You can move right in and you don't have the brain damage of having to do the work.
Makes sense.
Secondly, the way condos generally work, what's inside the paint of the walls is yours. Moving a wall can have significant ramifications, and you may need to go to the association to confirm that. And different associations have different rules, so part of your due diligence process after you've put a property under contract is to confirm that you can meet all of the association's expectations regarding doing the construction, because that's the first level. They may require a permit on some of the work, all right? The other thing that you see commonly that a lot of people don't take into account is before you put down a hard surface floor in a condominium, you have to put sound deadening materials down. And I am aware of situations where people have put down beautiful floors, but they didn't go to the association and find out they needed to put down sound deadening materials, and they ended up having to rip out the floors and put down the materials and then redo it. All right? Regarding the permits, I'm not qualified to tell you you need a permit, and I'm not dodging the bullet. I'm good at what I do. Many things in a condominium are gray or are shades of gray. So technically, anything you do with electricity requires a permit. Let me go to the ridiculous. I've been told by contractors that if you change a plug, an outlet, that technically could require a permit. Now, do people get permits to do that? Most people don't. All right? And I would, in your overall plan, I would err on the side of being conservative and saying, let's make sure we dot the I's and cross the T's to make sure that what we're doing doesn't require a permit, because when you go to sell, you don't want your buyer finding out that you did something that required a permit, or an appraiser saying you needed a permit, and then you have to do that after the fact in the future. And you may not be able to get the permit in the future.
I see, so it can impact your experience selling the property later
100%. Yep. Your final thought on that. Buyers' jobs are to fall in love with the property. Our job as a broker are to outline what the upsides and the downsides of the unit are and what the investment's going to look like long term, so that when they go to sell, we have the best understanding of the exit strategy in the future for that buyer.
Right.
Make sense?
Yes.
Good.
Great. So, Something else that's been going on with condominiums lately, I know you're well acquainted, is with the insurance industry.
Mm-hmm.
And across the nation, insurance premiums are going up in certain areas.
Yep.
And I'm wondering if there's anything that you can see in a condominium that can indicate more or less risk of insurance premiums rising right now, or whether it's sort of a gamble for any condominium.
Very broad question, and the very first thing you can do when you're looking at a condominium is ask them for a copy of the insurance certificate or the insurance summary.
Right.
All right, and if it's dated 2023, you want to buckle up because it's going to go up. All right, I'm familiar with the condominium down at Diamond Head. That this month their insurance went from $65,000 a year to $350,000 a year, right? These things are knowable, and it's not just one condo. Every condo is dealing with this. Many of them have dealt with it already because it started about a year ago, and they have been dealing with it. And it's knowable. Get this insurance summary as quickly as you can. Let your lender see it, see what it's dated, and even have a conversation with the association manager and ask them if they're currently shopping insurance to see if they're expecting, if they have quotes in hand. And sometimes what people don't say will tell you really what's going on. So if you ask the manager, hey, or do you guys have quotes in hand? Yes, we do. Are they higher than the other ones? I can't tell you. That just told you a whole lot, right? It's probably going up, right? The other thing, just to finish on condominiums, it's not only the condominium or the condo insurance that you have to be aware of, is lenders are going through condominium documents with fine-tooth combs. So you want to be ready to have a lender come back with questions, and the lenders may want the associations to sign documents. And we lost a sale about 3 months ago where the FHA required the association a document to be assigned by the signed by the association. Association said we don't sign third party documents. We lost the deal.
Wow.
And it was fundamentally the same information that was in the disclosure provided by the association.
Oh, so frustrating.
Yes, but government agencies required their documents.
Right.
Yep. Did that answer your question?
Yeah,
Okay,
thank you.
Great.
It was a good exploration. I'm going to go back to our discussion about permits. I forgot one question that I had. Can you share what sort of time range permitting can take if someone does go to get a permit?
Yes. Not a time range, but in words, a long time. Okay.
Are we talking 6 months, 5 years?
Probably less than 2 years. All right. I think 6 months, depending on the magnitude of the permit, seems very optimistic. But if you think through, if you need a permit, you're going to need drawings, you're going to need the explanation of what's going on, and then it goes down to the DPP, the Department of Permitting and Planning at the City and County of Honolulu.
Great.
And I wouldn't be that concerned about permits on a condominium unless you're gutting it and putting up new walls and changing the character of the interior.
I see.
If you're changing kitchen cabinets, I'm going to defer to your contractor again, but if you're just changing the kitchen cabinets, many contractors won't get a permit on that.
Interesting.
Could you? I mean, because you're replacing it, right? It's not like you're adding new cabinets. It's not new. You're just replacing the old ones. And the case that contractors make is you don't need a permit for something that's already there. If you're upgrading an electrical box, you're going to need a permit, right? And some of them, we discussed this the other day, if they've got a federal electric box, they were recalled in the 70s, and fire hazards, and many condominiums in Honolulu have them. And the cost to upgrade an electric panel is probably $3,000 to $5,000, depending on who you have do it, and you probably need a permit.
So are you saying that can take 2 years to get a permit for something?
I've never pulled one on that, but I know that on new construction, if you submitted today, you're looking at 18. If you're building a house, you're looking at 18 months to 2 years to get your permit out of the DPP.
Good to keep in mind.
Yeah, and just one final thought: if you have a federal electric box, don't go running to your electrician and say, let's change it. Have it checked. The inspector that I use said there is a recall on them, or was a recall, but he's not aware of any fires that have happened here in Honolulu as a result of that federal box. But it was recalled because apparently people in the mainland were having problems with it.
Oh my.
Yep.
Good to know.
Yep.
Let's move on. So when considering a condominium to purchase, how can you tell whether the building is well managed or not?
Great question. To me, it's really simple.
How?
Just when you pull up to it, look at how well maintained the exterior is, right? Are the plantings nice? Is the paint fresh? Is everything neat and orderly? Or do you walk up and is the entry phone broken? Right?
Basic things.
Is it missing keys? You walk in the lobby and the carpet's worn and the paint's tired. You walk in the elevator and all the numbers don't work. And it's a really good question, because here's what your listeners want to keep in mind, or anybody that's considering a condominium. You can change the unit, right? You can walk into a unit that smells. You walk up to the front door, you go, whoa. You can change that. Really hard to change an association. And could common area improvements cost $3, $4, $5 million? Absolutely. So the cost to do so, I recommend looking at great buildings, and the way to know it is walk around the common areas. If they're in great shape, you've got probably really good management going on. If they're in great shape and you have a lower or moderate maintenance fee, even better, right?
That would be perfect.
Absolutely.
For a lot of people.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Thank you. And another question I have is about construction in different eras of Oahu. So we have a lot of old buildings here.
We do.
And I'm wondering if you've noticed whether buildings from certain decades have better quality construction, or even longer lasting homes, or we're talking about condos, so buildings. Have you noticed any trends?
That's a really good question. I've never thought about it that way. Number one, what I would say about eras of construction, and one of the reasons sometimes I like older units over newer units, is because land costs were higher 50 years ago. Or check that. Because land costs were lower 50 years ago, a developer didn't need to build as many units to get to recoup their investment. You follow me? So sometimes older units are bigger, right? If you go up at the end of Wilder, 999 Wilder, 1001 Wilder, 1010 Wilder, huge units, and they were built in the early 60s. High ceilings. So many times you'll get better construction in older units, just general foundation, because the labor was cheaper, goods were cheaper, and people were cutting fewer corners. And honestly, craftsmen in those days had more pride in their work, right? Doesn't mean new condos today aren't good to buy. Kobayashi Group, who did the Hoku, or Hokua, I'm sorry.
Right. Beautiful project.
It's a beautiful project, and it shines 20-some years later above all of the new construction. right? So I'm still going to call that newer construction, right? And some of the buildings, they were just slapped together. I'm not going to name names, but so you take it on a case-by-case basis. But some of the older buildings, you may have to upgrade electrical because they were using different electric circuits at the time, etc.
Makes sense.
Yep.
Yeah. Thanks. That's good to know. Makes sense that older buildings would be more spacious.
Yep.
Before everything got so dense as it is now.
Well, here's another thought on older buildings, right? One of my favorite buildings, one of the first, well, actually the first high-rise down in the Ala Moana area was 1350 Ala Moana, right? So think about this. It's at the corner of Pi'ikoi and Ala Moana Boulevard, right? Across the street from Ala Moana Beach Park. That developer had the pick of the litter. He could have picked any lot, right? And it's one of the best locations on the island, and it's older, right? And that's an example, by the way, going to your question of management earlier. That's an example of a building that's one of the older buildings in town, but that association does a great job managing that property, keeping it crisp and clean. They don't use it anymore because the technology didn't work well.
Which
the first building I saw with a retinal scan was 1350 Ala Moana. Yeah, and to get in the gym, you had to do a retinal scan.
What?
But it didn't. The technology didn't work. But it shows how progressive that association was on trying to keep their building up to date.
Wow, that's a cool tidbit. I had no idea.
Yep.
I didn't know anywhere on Oahu.
Haven't seen anywhere else since, or before or since. So yeah.
Very cool.
Yep.
So another question is about sometimes listings differ online from what you see in person. A good example of this is it's common to see, or not common, but I have seen multiple examples of something being listed as a one-bedroom online, and then you go in person and it is what appears to be a studio.
Right.
Can you share why that might be happening?
Yeah, there's some of the older buildings. Part of it was the building. You'll see what they called 2-bedroom, 1-baths back in the day. A lot of them are down on Pule Circle or in the older buildings, and they were really more like a 1-bedroom with a den. Right.
No windows, no closet.
Right. Yeah, and it's sliding doors. So, and many people just turn those into large 1-bedrooms with a bigger living room because they took out the dividing wall. Other times you'll see people have to make a unit bigger, feel bigger, they'll remove the demising walls for the one bedroom part of it to just make it a large studio. Makes it more open, lets light go into the bedroom, etc. What I tend to look at if we have a question on that is the square footage. So if a building has studios and 1-bedrooms, and the studios are 400 square feet and the 1-bedrooms are 600 square feet, and then we go and we see a unit that turns out on paper it says it's a 1-bedroom, but we walk in and it's actually a studio, no bedroom.
Yeah.
If it's 600 square feet, it was probably a 1-bedroom at one point.
Makes sense.
Right.
Yeah,
and the owner or an owner along the way changed it. The easiest way to check it is either to go to the condominium records, because they'll show what it was originally. Not easily found, but we can get them. Or you check the building permits, and they may reflect that the wall was removed and that sort of thing.
I see. Yeah, or even, for example, I heard recently a building I visited that someone had purchased 2 units and connected them.
Right.
It was a massive studio, but it was listed as a 1-bedroom. And anyway.
Correct. So along those lines, the other telltale is maintenance fee, right? If a studio has a $900 a month maintenance fee, and you're seeing that they have 2 unit numbers on the unit, but they have $1,800 a month in maintenance fees.
Probably used to be 2 units.
Probably used to be 2.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, and that's something you would need a permit for, most likely.
Makes sense.
Yep.
Thank you.
Yep.
Okay, well, I have one more question. It's more of a fun question.
Okay.
The Gold Coast on Diamond Head.
Okay.
why is it called the Gold Coast?
Probably because it's so expensive. I don't. They didn't find gold there,
No,
right? I mean,
so.
Diamond Head's called Diamond Head because they thought they found fake. They thought they found diamonds, but they turned out to be fake diamonds.
Oh, right. I think it was the olivine
Correct.
in the sand, right?
Correct. So it's called the Gold Coast because really, at the end of the day, it's one of the most expensive parts of our island.
Mm.
They're not going to build any more units down there. In fact, a little bit of interesting trivia.
Mm.
In 1966, the Honolulu City Council was going to condemn
Really?
all of the units down there because they were afraid of losing the outline of Diamond Head. And they didn't pull the trigger on condemning it all because they thought it would cost $66 million back then to buy everybody out of their units. Now, most of the units down there started $1 million for something with no view and no parking, right?
Right.
And you can spend $5 or $6 million. It would have been a bargain in today's number to buy all of those for $66 million.
Right.
So, yeah, I mean, but if you've been down there, Diamond Head's great, and you have Kapilani Park, you have tennis over at Kapilani Park, and the gardens, and
Right.
and it's the last place on the island to rain. And people that live down there love it.
Totally.
So our time is running short.
Okay, well, thank you so much
Yeah.
for allowing me to interview you, and hope you all learned a thing or two.
So how do people get a hold of you?
So you can visit my website, lehuakato.com, LEHUAKATO.com, or feel free to call me or text 808-723-5883.
Awesome. And again, my name is Keahi Pelayo. Thank you so much for sitting through this. Hopefully we gave you some information, a little different perspective than you see in other places. And feel free to reach out to me at the myriad of ways that are available for you to contact me. And I'd be happy to help you with any questions that you have or unique questions that you have. If we don't have the answers, we can get the answers. In the meantime, you guys have a great day.
Thank you. Take care.